Elena Richardson Hartwell believed her story had reached its conclusion. 5 years had passed since she inherited $5 billion, 5 years since she left her ex-husband Derek devastated in family court and his mistress Sophia running from the state in humiliation. 5 years since she'd established the most successful women's foundation in American history. She believed the chapter on Derek was permanently closed. But she was mistaken, because when her 6-year-old daughter Isabella stood at a podium before 500 of the city's most influential people and spoke 7 words that would shatter the internet, "My daddy abandoned my mama for money." Before we continue, Happy New Year from all of at Heartfelt Stories. We wish you a great 2026 and may you accomplish your goals in good health and prosperity. Please tell us where you're watching from in the comment box. Hit the like and subscribe button, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Now let's jump right back in. Everything Elena believed she understood about forgiveness, about justice, about shielding her daughter from reality was about to be challenged in ways that would leave Derek on his knees pleading for something money could never purchase. But what broke every heart in that ballroom wasn't simply a 6-year-old's innocent truth. It was what transpired next, because Derek was present in that audience. He'd purchased a ticket under a false identity just to glimpse his daughter from afar. The daughter he'd deserted. The daughter he hadn't been permitted to see in 5 years after breaking the court's visitation requirements. And when Isabella's words resonated through that ballroom, when she revealed the truth he'd spent 5 years escaping from, Derek did something nobody anticipated. He rose, walked to the stage, and uttered the 4 words that would either obliterate him completely or offer him the only opportunity at redemption he'd ever receive. "She's right. I did." What Elena's father didn't foresee when he left those letters, what Elena couldn't have envisioned when she won that custody battle, was that 5 years later, Derek would do something that would force her to make an impossible decision. Does she shield her daughter from a father who deserted her? Or does she demonstrate to her daughter that people can transform? That compassion sometimes resembles giving someone a second opportunity they absolutely don't merit. And here's the part that'll shatter you emotionally. The decision Elena makes doesn't just transform Derek's life, it transforms Sophia's too. Because when Sophia witnesses what occurs at that gala, when she observes Derek confront his daughter for the first time in 5 years, she'll do something so startling, so unanticipated, that it'll prove Elena's father was correct about one final thing. That genuine power isn't just about crushing your adversaries. It's about being resilient enough to let them crush themselves, or brave enough to witness them reconstruct. So, the question isn't just what transpired 5 years after she inherited $5 billion. Is this: what does a mother do when her 6-year-old daughter questions why her daddy doesn't desire her? How does a billionaire who's constructed her entire identity on protecting women teach her daughter about forgiveness without betraying everything she represents? And what happens when the man who once declared you'd never be sufficient returns broken, humbled, and requesting not for money, not for access to your empire, but for 5 minutes with the daughter whose entire existence he missed? Because what happened at that gala didn't just alter Derek and Sophia's lives permanently. It demonstrated to the world what genuine strength resembles. And it's not what any of us anticipated. Listen, if you haven't viewed parts 1 and 2 of this story, the links are in the description, and you must watch them first, because what's about to unfold will only make sense if you comprehend how we arrived here. But if you're current, hit that subscribe button immediately and activate notifications, because this final part of Elena's story is going to reveal to you what real forgiveness resembles. And it's nothing like what you imagine. Smash that like button if you believe people can transform, but also believe they need to demonstrate it. And comment below. Have you ever had to determine whether to permit someone who wounded you back into your existence? Tell me what you selected and why. Because Elena's about to make the most difficult decision of her life. The annual Richardson Hartwell Foundation Gala was the premier event of the year in philanthropic circles. 500 of the city's most influential people assembled in the ballroom of the Grand Cascadia Hotel, dressed in tuxedos and evening gowns, drinking champagne that cost more per bottle than most people earned in a week. But tonight wasn't about prosperity. It was about influence. The foundation had just revealed that in 5 years they'd assisted over 50,000 women and children across 20 cities with a total investment of $800 million in programs that were transforming lives. Elena stood backstage observing through the curtain as the executive director delivered the opening remarks, her hand positioned on her daughter's shoulder. Isabella was 6 years old now, tall for her age, with her grandfather's perceptive eyes and her mother's tender smile. She wore a simple blue dress. Elena's principle was that Isabella dressed like a normal child, not a billionaire heir, and her hair was pulled back in 2 neat braids. "Mama, I'm anxious," Isabella whispered, gripping the index cards Elena had helped her prepare. I understand, baby, but you're going to do wonderfully. Just read what we wrote nice and slow. And remember, everyone in that room is there because they believe in assisting people. They're supporting you. What if I make an error? Elena knelt down eye level with her daughter. Then you make an error and it's acceptable. Grandpa Thomas used to tell me that the only genuine mistake is not attempting at all. And you're attempting. That makes you courageous. Isabella nodded, taking a deep breath. And Elena felt her heart expand with pride and terror in equal proportion. This was Isabella's concept. She had requested if she could speak at the gala. Inform people what the foundation represented to her. Elena had attempted to dissuade her, concerned about the pressure, the examination, the inevitable questions about her father that reporters adored to ask. But Isabella had persisted, and Elena had discovered over 6 years of single motherhood, that sometimes the optimal thing you could do for your child was step aside and let them be courageous. And now the executive director announced, I'd like to introduce someone very special. She's 6 years old. She's the granddaughter of our founder, Thomas Hartwell, and she has something she desires to share with all of you. Please welcome Isabella Richardson Hartwell. The ballroom erupted in applause. Elena gave Isabella's hand one final squeeze, and her daughter walked onto that stage like she'd been destined for it. Her small frame overshadowed by the massive podium, but her presence somehow occupying the entire room. Elena watched from the wings, her heart in her throat as Isabella adjusted the microphone and looked out at 500 strangers with more bravery than most adults could summon. Hi, Isabella said, her voice clear and powerful. My name is Isabella, and my grandpa Thomas passed away before I was born, but my mama tells me about him constantly. She says he was a janitor at a school and he worked incredibly hard, and he loved assisting people even when nobody recognized he was doing it. The room was completely silent, mesmerized by this small girl with the big voice. My mama started this foundation because my grandpa desired to help mamas who were sad and frightened and didn't have anybody to help them like my mama was when I was born. Isabella glanced at her index cards, then back up. My mama was really scared when I was a baby because my daddy abandoned us. He left my mama for money. Elena's breath caught. That wasn't on the cards. That wasn't what they had rehearsed. She didn't inform me that. Isabella continued, her voice trembling slightly now. I overheard grown-ups discussing it at school. They said my daddy divorced my mama right after my grandpa died because he didn't realize my grandpa was wealthy. And when he discovered, he attempted to take me away so he could have the money. Oh God. Elena started to advance forward to stop this, to protect her daughter from expressing things she couldn't retract. But Richard grabbed her arm gently. Wait, he whispered. Let her finish. I don't remember my daddy, Isabella said. And now there were tears in her eyes. I've never encountered him, but my mama never says negative things about him. She just says that sometimes people make errors. And we have to decide if we desire to be angry or if we desire to be compassionate. And I think my mama is the kindest person in the entire world because she helps all these other mamas even though she was sad too. Elena was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. So, I just wanted to say thank you. Isabella finished. Thank you for assisting my mama help people because my grandpa Thomas was correct. The best treasure is a good heart and my mama has the best heart. The applause was deafening. People were on their feet, some crying openly, affected by the raw honesty of a child who just revealed a truth that most adults would have concealed. But Elena wasn't watching the crowd. She was watching Isabella's face, seeing the relief and pride in something else. Question forming that Elena knew was approaching eventually, but wasn't prepared to answer. And then everything halted because a man stood up in the middle of the ballroom. A man Elena would have recognized anywhere, even though he looked nothing like he had 5 years ago. Thinner, older, worn down by life in ways that wealth used to shield him from. Derek. He walked toward the stage slowly, and Elena's security team started to move. But she held up her hand. Wait. Derek stopped at the edge of the stage, looking up at Isabella, genuinely looking at her for the first time in her entire life. You're right, he said, his voice breaking. I did. I abandoned your mama for money, and it's the worst thing I've ever done. Not because of the money I lost, because of you. Because I missed your entire life. The ballroom was so quiet you could hear people breathing. Isabella stared at the stranger, her 6-year-old mind attempting to process what was occurring. Are you my daddy? I'm the man who should have been your daddy, Derek said, tears streaming down his face. But I wasn't. I was selfish and foolish and I threw away everything that mattered. And I know I don't deserve to speak to you. I know I have no right to be here, but I heard you were speaking tonight and I needed to see you. Even from far away, I needed to see the person I should have known. Elena was moving now, walking onto that stage, positioning herself between Derek and Isabella. Every protective instinct screaming, "Security, please escort Mr. Richardson out of the building. Elena, please. You violated the court order. You're not permitted within 500 feet of Isabella. Depart now." But Isabella's small hand grabbed Elena's arm. "Mama, wait." Elena looked down at her daughter, this beautiful, brilliant, brave little girl who was watching her father with curiosity instead of fear, with questions instead of anger. "Is he genuinely my daddy?" Isabella asked quietly. Elena's throat closed up. She'd known this moment would arrive eventually, but not like this. Not in front of 500 people. Not with Derek standing there broken and pleading. "Biologically?" "Yes," Elena managed. "But Isabella, this is complicated. This isn't the time." "I just want to say one thing," Derek interrupted, his voice desperate. "Just one thing, and then I'll depart and never return if that's what you desire." Elena should have said no. Should have had him removed. Should have protected her daughter from this man who'd proven repeatedly that he couldn't be trusted. But something in his voice stopped her. Something different than the Derek she'd known. Something broken but authentic. 30 seconds, she said coldly. "Then you depart." Derek knelt down, making himself smaller, less threatening, and looked at Isabella. "I was supposed to be at the hospital the night you were born. I was supposed to hold you first and tell you I loved you and promise to protect you forever. But I wasn't there. And every day since then. Every single day for 6 years I wake up knowing I missed it. I missed your first word, your first step, your first day of school. I missed everything and I can't retrieve that back. I can't repair what I broke." He pulled something from his pocket, a small, worn photograph. "But I want you to know that I think about you every day. This is a picture your mama posted online when you were 3 days old. It's the only picture I have of you. And I look at it every morning and every night and I tell myself that maybe someday if I can become someone worthy of you, maybe I'll receive a chance to say I'm sorry. Not to request for anything, just to say I'm sorry." He placed the photograph on the edge of the stage and stood up. "Thank you for permitting me to say that. I'll depart now." He turned to leave and Isabella's voice rang out. "Wait." Everyone froze. Isabella looked at Elena. "Mama, can I ask him something?" Elena's heart was breaking. This wasn't fair. This wasn't how this was supposed to proceed. But she looked into her daughter's eyes and saw something that terrified her. "Oh. One question," Elena whispered. Isabella turned to Derek. "If you could have a do-over, would you stay with my mama?" The question hung in the air like a grenade. Derek's face crumpled. "Yes, God. Yes, I would stay. I would be there when you were born. I would change your diapers and wake up for night feedings and teach you to ride a bike. I would tell your mama she was sufficient every single day until she believed it and I would never ever leave." "But you did leave," Isabella said simply. "So why should I believe you now?" And there was 6 years old and she'd asked the question that mattered more than any other. Derek had no answer. He just stood there stripped of every defense, every excuse, every justification, and said the only true thing he had left. "You shouldn't. I haven't earned that. I just wanted you to know that I see what I lost and it wasn't the money, it was you." Elena made a decision that would change everything. "Isabella, go backstage with Uncle Richard now." Isabella hesitated, then obeyed, leaving Elena and Derek alone on that stage in front of 500 people. Elena walked to the edge of the stage and looked down at the man who destroyed her, abandoned her, attempted to steal her child, and she said, "You're correct. You don't deserve a second chance. You don't deserve to know her. But this isn't about what you deserve. It's about what she deserves. And what she deserves is the truth and the choice when she's old enough to make it. So here's what's going to occur. You're going to depart right now," Elena said, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "You're going to go home and you're going to write Isabella a letter. Not me, her. You're going to explain in words a 6-year-old can comprehend why you weren't there. You're going to be honest. You're going to take responsibility. And you're not going to make excuses or blame me or discuss the money, just the truth." Derek nodded, barely breathing. "Then you're going to mail that letter to my attorney. He'll review it. If it's appropriate, if it's honest, if it's truly about her and not about you, he'll give it to me and I'll read it. And if I think it won't harm her, I'll give it to Isabella. That's step 1. No guarantees, no promises, just a letter." "Okay," Derek whispered. "What's step 2? "There is no step 2 until step 1 occurs." And Derek, Elena's voice turned to ice. "If you appear uninvited again, if you violate the court order again, if you do anything that makes me question whether you've actually changed or if this is just another manipulation, I will ensure you never receive another chance. Do you comprehend me?" "Yes." "Then depart and don't contact me directly. Everything goes through my attorney. Everything. Derek took one last look at the stage where his daughter had been, nodded, and walked out of the ballroom. The doors closed behind him and the room erupted into whispers. Elena stood there for a moment, shaking, then turned to find Richard and Isabella backstage. Her daughter was sitting in a chair, swinging her legs, looking smaller than she had on that stage. "Mama, are you upset at me?" Elena pulled her into a fierce hug. "No, baby, never. You were so brave tonight, so honest. I'm proud of you. Is my daddy going to return? I don't know. Maybe if he does what I asked him to do. Do you want him to return?" Elena pulled back to look at Isabella's face, wiping away a tear from her daughter's cheek. "What I want doesn't matter as much as what you need. And I think you need to know the truth about who he is, good and bad. And then when you're older, you can decide what kind of relationship you want with him, if any. What if he hurts me like he hurt you?" Elena's heart shattered. "Then I'll be right there to protect you always. That's what mamas do." That night after the gala, after the press had been managed and the guests had departed and Isabella was finally asleep, Elena sat in her study with Richard, a glass of wine she wasn't drinking in her hand. "You did the right thing," Richard said quietly. "Did I? I just gave the man who abandoned my daughter access to her. What if he hurts her? What if he disappoints her? What if, Elena, your father left you those letters because he trusted you to know when to show mercy and when to show strength? Tonight you showed both. You set boundaries, clear ones, and you gave Isabella something more valuable than protection from disappointment. You gave her agency, the ability to know her own story and make her own choices about it. She's 6 years old. She's Thomas Hartwell's granddaughter. She's stronger than you think." Elena wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe she hadn't just made a terrible mistake. The letter arrived 4 days later. Richard called Elena to his office. The envelope sitting on his desk like something dangerous. "I've read it," Richard said. It's good, Elena. It's honest. It's age-appropriate. And it doesn't request for anything." Elena's hands shook as she opened it. The handwriting was careful, like Derek had written it multiple times before settling on these exact words. "Dear Isabella, my name is Derek and I'm your father. I know that might feel strange to read because we've never met, even though you're 6 years old now. That's my fault. Not your mama's. Not yours. Mine. When you were about to be born, I made the worst decision of my life. I left your mama because I was scared and selfish, and I thought I wanted different things than what I had. I thought money and success and an easier life would make me happy. I was wrong about everything. Your mama was the best thing that ever happened to me and I threw it away. And then I found out that your grandpa Thomas, the one your mama tells you about, left your mama a lot of money. And instead of being happy for her, instead of wanting to help, I got greedy. I attempted to take you away from your mama, not because I wanted to be your dad, but because I thought it would give me access to money. I know that's difficult to comprehend. It's difficult for me to comprehend how I could have been that terrible, but I was." The judge said, "I couldn't see you because I hadn't earned the right." And he was correct. I haven't been there for any of your life. I don't know your favorite color or your favorite food or what makes you laugh. I don't know if you're afraid of the dark or if you like to read or what you want to be when you grow up. I don't know you, and that's the saddest thing in my whole life. I'm not writing this letter to request you to forgive me or to see me. I'm writing it because your mama said you deserve the truth. So here's the truth. I wasn't a good man when you were born. I hurt your mama. I abandoned you and I have to live with that forever. But I want you to know that even though I wasn't there, even though I made terrible choices, none of it was because of anything you did. You didn't do anything wrong. You were perfect. You were perfect. And if I could go back and do everything differently, I would. I hope someday when you're older maybe we can meet. Not because I deserve it, but because you deserve to know where you came from. Both the good parts and the bad parts. Your mama is the good part. I'm the bad part. But maybe if I work really hard and try to be better every day, maybe someday I can be a small good part too. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I hurt your mama. And I'm sorry you have a father who has to write you a letter instead of being able to tell you all of this while tucking you into bed at night. Love, Derek. Elena read it 3 times, tears streaming down her face before she could speak. He didn't request for anything. No, Richard agreed. He didn't. He just told the truth. What do you want to do? Elena folded the letter carefully. I want to give it to Isabella and I want to see what she says. That night, after Isabella's bath, after they'd read 2 chapters of the book they were working through together, Elena sat on the edge of her daughter's bed and held out the envelope. Your father wrote you a letter. You don't have to read it if you don't want to. And if you do read it, you don't have to do anything about it. It's just information, just the truth. What do you want to do? Isabella took the envelope carefully. Will you read it to me? Of course, baby. Can I ask you one more thing? Anything. If we do this again, will you actually appear or will you leave like you left before? Derek looked at Elena, then back at Isabella. I'll appear. I promise. And if I can't for some reason, I'll tell you why ahead of time. I won't just disappear. Okay. Isabella walked toward the door, then turned back. You're not as scary as I thought you'd be. After she left, Derek sat there shaking. Thank you, he said to Elena. I know I don't deserve that. Thank you. Elena stood gathering her things. I didn't do it for you. I did it for her. And Derek, you made a promise to a 6-year-old. If you break it, if you disappoint her, if you prove that you haven't actually changed, I will ensure you never receive another chance. Are we clear? Crystal clear. Elena left him sitting there, probably crying, probably realizing what he'd lost and what he was attempting to retrieve back. Over the next 6 months, Derek appeared once a month, supervised visits, 30 minutes each, always on time, always prepared, always focused entirely on Isabella. He didn't request for more time, didn't push for unsupervised visits, didn't complain about the restrictions. He just appeared, and slowly, impossibly, Isabella started to warm to him, started to ask when the next visit was. Started to call him Derek instead of that man or my father. Elena watched it happen with a mixture of relief and terror. Relief that Isabella was getting to know her father. Terror that he'd eventually revert to who he was and break her daughter's heart. But on the day of Isabella's 7th birthday, something happened that changed everything. A package arrived at Elena's brownstone, not from Derek. The return address was from a women's shelter in Cleveland, Ohio. Inside was a letter, and it was from Sophia Chin. Elena's hands shook as she opened it, expecting poison, expecting one last attack, expecting anything but what she found. Dear Elena, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to care. But I'm writing it anyway because my therapist says that making amends is part of healing, even when those amends aren't accepted. I destroyed your life. I helped Derek destroy your life. I whispered, finally, when your father died, I testified against you in court. I attempted to ruin you with fake evidence. And for 5 years, I've been living with the consequences of those choices. I lost my career, my reputation, my financial stability. I declared bankruptcy. I moved across the country to escape the scandal. And for a long time, I blamed you. I told myself you were the villain, that you'd somehow won unfairly, that if you'd just shared your money, none of this would have occurred. But I was lying to myself. You didn't do anything to me. I did it to myself. I'm writing this from a women's shelter where I've been living for the past 3 months. I lost my apartment, lost my job again, hit rock bottom in ways I never imagined possible. And you want to know the most ironic part? The shelter I'm staying in is funded by your foundation. The Richardson Hartwell Foundation, your father's legacy. The counseling I'm receiving, the job training, the second chance I'm getting. It's all because of you. The woman I attempted to destroy is the reason I have hope right now. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't even want it because I don't think I could handle the weight of your mercy. But I wanted you to know that I finally comprehend what your father was trying to teach you. What you've been showing the world through your foundation. That genuine power isn't crushing your enemies. It's being strong enough to help them even after they've attempted to hurt you. I'm going to spend the rest of my life attempting to be better. Not for you, for me. And for all the people I hurt by being who I was. Thank you for giving me a second chance even though you had no reason to. I'll never contact you again. This is goodbye. But I wanted you to know that the villain in your story is attempting to write a better ending for herself. And it's because you showed her it's possible. Sophia. Elena read the letter 3 times before she showed it to Richard. What do you want to do with this? He asked. Elena thought about it for a long time. Then she did something that surprised even herself. She wrote back. Elena's response to Sophia was simple. Just 3 sentences on Richardson Hartwell Foundation letterhead. I'm glad you're receiving help. I'm glad you're healing. That's what the foundation is for. Second chances for people brave enough to take them. She didn't expect to hear from Sophia again. And she didn't. But knowing that even her enemy had found refuge in something her father had made possible, something Elena had built from grief and pain and determination that gave her a peace she hadn't known she needed. Isabella's 7th birthday fell on a Saturday in late spring, and Elena had planned a modest party at their brownstone. 15 kids from school, pizza, a bounce house in the backyard, and a cake shaped like a unicorn because Isabella was currently obsessed with all things magical. Nothing extravagant, nothing that screamed billionaires, just a normal 7-year-old's birthday party. Derek had requested through Richard if he could attend, not as a guest, just to drop off a present and say happy birthday. Elena had consulted Isabella, and her daughter had surprised her by saying yes. So, at 2 p.m. in the middle of the party chaos, kids screaming in the bounce house, parents making small talk over coffee, Isabella's face painted like a butterfly. Derek arrived at the door carrying a small wrapped box and looking terrified. Elena opened the door and they stood there for a moment. These two people who'd once promised to love each other forever and had broken that promise in the most devastating ways possible. "Thank you for permitting me to come," Derek said quietly. 15 minutes, Elena replied. "You give her the present, you sing happy birthday if she wants you to, and then you depart." Clear, clear. She let him in and Isabella spotted him immediately. Her face lit up in a way that made Elena's chest ache. Her daughter was happy to see her father. After everything, despite everything, that little girl was glad he came. "Derek." Isabella ran over, still cautious enough not to hug him, but close enough that Elena could see the connection forming. "You came. I promised I would. Happy birthday, Isabella." He handed her the small box. "I hope you like it." Isabella tore open the wrapping paper with the enthusiasm of a 7-year-old and pulled out a music box. Simple hand-carved wood with a ballerina that spun when you opened it. But what made Elena's breath catch was the song it played. The same lullaby her father used to hum to her. The same one that had played from the music box he'd left her. "How did you?" Elena started. "I asked Richard what song your father used to sing to you," Derek said softly. I thought maybe Isabella would want to have that connection to her grandfather. I had it custom made." Isabella wound the key and watched the ballerina spin, enchanted. "So pretty. Mama, look." Elena looked and she saw something she'd never expected to see. Derek making an effort not to purchase Isabella's love with expensive gifts, but to give her something meaningful, something that connected her to the family legacy he'd almost destroyed. "Thank you," Elena said quietly. "That was thoughtful." The kids pulled Isabella back to the bounce house, and Derek stood awkwardly in the foyer, not quite belonging but not quite a stranger either. "You've done this every month for 6 months," Elena said. "Appeared, been honest, followed the rules. Dr. Chin says Isabella is responding well to the visits, so I'm going to offer you something and you can say yes or no, but if you say yes, you need to comprehend what you're committing to." Derek's whole body went still. "I'm listening." "Supervised visits are working but they're artificial. Isabella needs to see who you genuinely are, not who you are in a conference room for 30 minutes once a month. So, I'm willing to extend the visits 2 hours once a month at a public place of my choosing, a park, a museum, somewhere Isabella can be herself, still supervised, but with more room to actually build a relationship." "Yes," Derek said immediately. "Yes, absolutely. I'm not finished. If you say yes to this, you're committing to appearing not just when it's convenient, but when it's difficult. If Isabella has a bad day and doesn't want to talk, you sit with that. If she asks you difficult questions, you answer them. If she needs you to just be present without performing, you do that. This isn't about you proving you're a good dad. It's about you actually being one, even in the messy parts. Can you do that?" Derek's eyes filled with tears. "I can attempt. That's all I can promise, that I'll attempt every single time. Then we'll attempt starting next month." Over the next year, something impossible happened. Derek didn't just appear. He appeared fully. When Isabella didn't want to talk and just wanted to swing in silence at the park, he pushed her swing without needing her to entertain him. When she asked why he'd left her mama, he told her the truth without sugarcoating, but without traumatizing her. When she had a rough day at school and didn't want to see anyone, he texted Elena asking if she was okay and if there was anything he could do to help, even from a distance. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. He sometimes attempted too hard or asked questions that were too personal too fast. But when Elena or Dr. Chin corrected him, he listened. He adjusted. He learned. And Elena watched, suspicious at first, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for him to prove that people don't really change. But the shoe never dropped. On Isabella's 8th birthday, Derek requested if he could take her to the zoo, just the two of them, unsupervised for 3 hours. Elena's first instinct was to say absolutely not. But Dr. Chin thought it was time and Isabella wanted to go. So Elena said yes with conditions. Derek would check in every hour. They'd stay in public places and he'd have her back by 4 p.m. sharp. Those 3 hours were the longest of Elena's life. She paced her brownstone, checked her phone obsessively, imagined every possible disaster. Richard came over to keep her company, mostly to keep her from driving to the zoo and hovering. "You're going to have to trust him eventually," Richard said gently. "I don't trust him. I trust Dr. Chen's judgment. I trust Isabella's instincts. But him? No, not yet." Then when Elena didn't have an answer. At 3:58 p.m., Derek's car pulled up outside. Elena watched through the window as he opened the back door, and Isabella climbed out, clutching a stuffed penguin and chattering excitedly. He walked her to the door, looking relaxed in a way Elena had never seen him, like being a father was finally becoming natural instead of terrifying. Elena opened the door and Isabella rushed in. Mama, we saw penguins and Derek let me feed the giraffes and we got ice cream even though he knows I'm not supposed to have sugar before dinner. But he said it was a special occasion because I got an A on my spelling test. Elena looked at Derek, one eyebrow raised. I know, he said sheepishly. Ice cream was a mistake. She's going to be bouncing off walls tonight. I'm sorry. But he was smiling. And Isabella was happy. And for the first time in 8 years, Elena felt something she'd never expected to feel about Derek. Gratitude. Thank you for bringing her home on time. Elena said, I promised. I'm attempting to keep my promises now. After Isabella had been bathed and settled with a book, Elena found herself doing something she'd sworn she'd never do. She called Derek. Is everything okay? Is Isabella all right? His voice was immediately panicked. She's fine. I wanted to say something and I didn't want to say it in front of her. Okay. Elena took a breath. You've been appearing for over a year now. You haven't missed a single visit. You haven't made excuses. You've respected every boundary. You've put Isabella first even when I know it's been difficult. And I need to acknowledge that. You're not the man you were 8 years ago. There was silence on the other end. Then thank you. That means more than you know. I'm not saying I forgive you. I'm not saying we're friends. And I'm definitely not saying I trust you completely. But I'm saying I see the effort. And for Isabella's sake, I'm grateful for it. Elena, can I ask you something? Depends on the question. Do you think there will ever be a day when I'm permitted to just be her dad? Not supervised, not conditional, just her dad. Elena thought about it carefully. I think if you keep appearing, if you keep doing the work, if you prove over years, not months, Derek, years, that this is who you are now, then maybe. But that's Isabella's decision as much as mine. When she's old enough, she gets to choose what kind of relationship she wants with you. That's fair. More than fair. And Derek, the reason I'm even considering this, the reason I let you back into her life at all isn't because you deserve it, is because my father taught me something important. He taught me that mercy isn't about the person who wronged you. It's about who you want to be. And I want to be someone who gives people a chance to be better, even when they don't deserve it. 3 years later, on Isabella's 11th birthday, Elena did something that shocked everyone who knew her story. She invited Derek to Isabella's birthday dinner, not as a visitor, not as a supervised guest, but as her father. He sat at the table in Elena's dining room next to Isabella, who'd requested if he could come. And they ate pasta and laughed at Isabella's terrible jokes. And for 2 hours they looked almost like a family. Not the family they could have been. That family was gone, destroyed by choices that couldn't be unmade, but a different family. A complicated one. One built on honesty and boundaries and hard-won trust instead of romance and promises. After dinner, while Isabella was opening presents in the living room, Derek found Elena in the kitchen. I know this doesn't repair anything, he said quietly. I know I can never retrieve back what I threw away. But I want you to know that being here tonight, being permitted to be part of her life, even in this small way, it's more than I ever thought I'd receive. So thank you. Elena dried her hands on a dish towel and looked at this man who'd once been her husband, who'd once destroyed her, who'd spent the last 4 years slowly, painfully proving that people can change if they want to badly enough. You're welcome. But Derek, I need you to comprehend something. This isn't forgiveness. I don't know if I'll ever truly forgive you for what you did, but it's something else. It's acceptance. Acceptance that you're Isabella's father, and she deserves to have you in her life if you're going to be good for her. And so far you have been. That's all I can ask for. No, you can request to keep appearing, keep being honest, keep putting her first. That's what you can request for. And if you do that, then maybe someday, years from now, Isabella will tell her own children about her grandfather Thomas, who taught her mama about real wealth, and about her father, Derek, who learned what it means to actually be a dad. Not perfect but present. From the living room, Isabella's voice rang out. Mama, Derek, come see what Uncle Richard got me. They walked back together, not as partners, not as friends, but as two imperfect people doing their best to raise an extraordinary child. On what would have been her father's 70th birthday, Elena took Isabella to visit his grave. Her daughter was 12 now, asking harder questions, understanding more of the complicated truth about her family. Mama, do you think Grandpa Thomas would be proud of you? Isabella asked as they placed yellow roses on his headstone. I hope so. I think so. I've attempted to honor what he taught me. What about proud of Derek? Do you think he'd be proud that Derek changed? Elena thought about it carefully. I think your grandfather would be proud that Derek attempted. That's what he always said mattered most. Not being perfect but attempting to be better. Do you think people can genuinely change? Like genuinely truly change deep down? I think some people can, not everyone. Some people discuss changing but never do the work. But your father did the work. He went to therapy. He confronted what he'd done. He appeared even when it was difficult. That's genuine change. Do you think you'll ever love him again? The question caught Elena off guard. No, sweetheart. That door is closed. But I can respect him. I can appreciate the father he's become for you. And I can be grateful that he's given you something I never had. A chance to know both your parents. Isabella nodded, processing. I think I'm glad you permitted him to attempt, even though he messed up really badly at first. Me too, baby. Me too. That night, Elena sat in her study, looking at the letter her father had written over 12 years ago. The one that said, "Show no mercy." She finally comprehended what he meant. Not that she should be cruel. Not that she should never forgive, but that she should show no mercy to the voice that said she had to accept less than she deserved. No mercy to people who refused to change. No mercy to the idea that being strong meant being rigid. Genuine strength, she'd learned, was being soft enough to bend without breaking. Firm enough to hold boundaries while leaving space for grace. Wise enough to know the difference between someone who was attempting to manipulate her and someone who was genuinely attempting to transform. Derek would never be her partner again, would never be fully trusted again, would always carry the weight of what he'd done. But he was Isabella's father and he was attempting. And sometimes attempting was enough. Elena's phone buzzed. A text from the foundation. Just helped our 100,000th woman and child. Your father's legacy has touched 6 figures worth of lives. Thought you'd want to know. She looked at the photo on her desk. Her father in his janitor's uniform holding infant Elena. Both of them laughing at something long forgotten. We did it, Daddy, she whispered. We showed them what genuine wealth looks like. Not the money, the lives, the second chances. The proof that people can survive betrayal and emerge stronger. The proof that your daughter was never poor, never alone, never powerless, just like you promised. From upstairs, she heard Isabella laughing at something on her phone, probably texting with friends, living the normal preteen life Elena had worked so hard to give her, despite the billions in trust funds and the complicated family history. And Elena smiled because this ordinary evening in an extraordinary life built from the ashes of the worst betrayal she'd ever known. This was the genuine revenge. Not that Derek had suffered, though he had. Not that Sophia had faced consequences, though she had. But that Elena had taken her father's final gift and turned it into something that outlived all of them. A foundation that would help women and children for generations. A daughter who knew her worth had nothing to do with her bank account. A life so full of purpose and meaning that the people who attempted to destroy her had become footnotes in a much larger story. The story of a woman who inherited $5 billion and used it to prove that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming so powerful, so purposeful, so whole that your enemies' opinions become irrelevant. Their regrets become their own prison and their attempts to hurt you become the very thing that launches you into your destiny. Derek and Sophia had attempted to take everything from her. Instead, they'd given her the freedom to become who she was always meant to be. And that was the greatest victory of all. Final emotional CTA. So, let me ask you something and I want you to genuinely think about this. Have you ever given someone a second chance they didn't deserve and watched them actually change? Or have you ever been the person who needed that second chance, who needed someone to believe you could be better? Drop your story in the comments right now because Elena's story proves that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let people prove they've changed. Not because they've earned it, but because you're strong enough to hold boundaries while giving grace. And here's the bigger question. If you were Elena, could you have done it? Could you have let Derek back into your daughter's life after everything he did? Be honest. Tell me in the comments. Would you have shown mercy or would you have kept that door closed permanently? There's no wrong answer. I just want to hear your truth. Now, where are you watching this from? And more importantly, did you watch all 3 parts? Drop your location and which part impacted you the hardest in the comments. Are you in Lagos crying at 3 a.m. in London watching this on your lunch break? In New York, remembering your own story of betrayal and redemption? Tell me. Let's build a community of people who believe that hurt people don't have to stay hurt people. If you watched all 3 parts of Elena's story and you're sitting there with tears streaming down your face, comprehending that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, that boundaries can coexist with grace, that genuine wealth is measured in lives changed and not dollars earned, then you need to do 3 things right now. First, hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications because I post stories like this every single week. Stories about karma, justice, redemption, and people who thought they'd lost everything discovering they had everything they needed inside them all along. Second, smash that like button if you believe people can change when they do the actual work. Not just discuss it, not just apologize, but appear day after day, year after year, and prove it through actions. And third, this is important. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone going through a divorce. Someone dealing with a difficult co-parenting situation. Someone who's been betrayed and doesn't know if they'll ever heal. Someone who made terrible mistakes and is attempting to be better. Share it. Let them know they're not alone. Because that's what Elena's father taught her and what she taught Isabella, and what I hope you'll take from this story. You are never alone. You are never defined by what others did to you. You are never powerless. You just might not know it yet. Thanks for watching all 3 parts. Thanks for going on this journey with Elena from her lowest moment to her greatest triumph. And remember, the people who underestimate you, who abandon you, who think you'll crumble without them, they're not your enemy. They're your liberation. Because when they depart, they make room for you to become who you were always meant to be. Now go build something beautiful from your pain. Just like Elena did, just like her father knew she would.